Our low median net worth is a mystery in history that needs answers. How did our collective median net worth end up being almost nothing compared to other groups? I've touched on this topic before, and other great Black YouTube channels have as well. From analyzing the most marketable brands to covering luxury lifestyles and business strategies, we've got the motivation you need right here. Clearly, the 800-pound elephant in the room regarding our aggregate wealth is that something catastrophic happened long ago that has not been addressed. It's beyond reparations since that deals specifically with slavery. Not all of our ancestors were slaves. Many, if not most, owned property here. We've been conditioned to think our ancestors owned nothing, that random mobs of angry men out of nowhere started a race riot to run blacks out of town. But is that it? Do you really think our history is that simple? It's time to unlearn what your schools of propaganda taught you. Those so-called race riots were not random, nor were they led by low-level, ignorant, angry white dudes. That's not how this world works. There was a small group of powerful puppet masters who run the financial and corporate powerhouses we see and work for today, who orchestrated one of the biggest transfers of wealth in history at our expense. Let's look at a few examples from history. From 2014 comes this article in the Atlanta Black Star called, quote, 8 Heartbreaking Cases Where Land Was Stolen from Black Americans Through Racism, Violence, and Murder, unquote. It uncovers a 2007 documentary called Banished by Marco Williams that depicted several cases of the theft of black lands at the hands of whites. I want to read, word for word, 2 of the 8 cases the article describes. Feel free to read the rest on the website at the link below. After I read them, I will then add my commentary. Ocoee, Florida. A total of 330 acres plus 48 city lots owned by 18 black families living in Ocoee, Florida were lost after a violent Election Day attack on the black community in 1920 known as the Ocoee Massacre. Some were able to sell their land at a fair price, but most were not. In 2001, the land lost by the 18 Ocoee families, not including buildings now on it, is assessed by tax officials at more than $4.2 million, according to the Associated Press report. The true market value is probably a lot more, unquote. And that part is true, by the way. We covered this one. I actually covered Ocoee in another video, and there was a settlement reached in this case after this article was written. Some money and scholarships came of that, but what about the lost opportunity cost of annual revenues that could have come about had those black businesses not been destroyed? The loss of annual income is perhaps even more valuable than the land and building itself. But notice once again, history wants us to believe that an angry, random group of white men in a white mob just lashed out at blacks for made-up reasons. This pattern repeats itself all over the country, even the world, when it comes to our lands being lost as we fled. But did the masterminds behind these angry white mobs benefit? The white mobs were usually dispersed, some got arrested, others disappeared in the pages of history. But the land title and the land itself went to the puppet masters, who also created the schools that led us down the wrong path in uncovering who really benefited. Keep that in mind. Now let's go to the next case in Jasper County, Mississippi. In Jasper County, Mississippi, according to historical accounts, the Ku Klux Klan, resentful that African Americans were buying and profiting from land, regularly attacked black-owned farms, burned houses, lynched black farmers, and chased black landowners away. On the night of September 10, 1932, 15 whites torched the courthouse in Paulding, where property records for the eastern half of Jasper County, then predominantly black, were stored. Records for the predominantly white western half of the county were safe in another courthouse miles away. The door to the Paulding courthouse's safe, which protected the records, usually locked, was found open with most of the records reduced to ashes. Suddenly, it conveniently became unclear who owned a big piece of eastern Jasper County, which was predominantly black, keep that in mind. In December 1937, the Masonite Corporation, a wood products company and one of the largest landowners in the area, keep that in mind, was granted a clear title to 9,581 acres of land, which has since yielded millions of dollars in natural gas, timber, and oil, according to state records. From the few property records that remain, the AP, the Associated Press, was able to document that at least 204.5 of those acres were acquired by Masonite Corporation after black owners were driven off by the Ku Klux Klan. At least 850,000 barrels of oil have been pumped from this property, according to State Oil and Gas Board records and figures from the Petroleum Technology Transfer Council and Industry Group, unquote. Now, notice the exact same pattern here. Ever wonder why the Klan was hooded? Recall that their leaders were also the leading men in each community, but even these guys were puppets themselves. So why did they even call themselves KKK, which is 33 in their alphabetic numerology, as K is the 11th letter and it's 3 letters. So 3 times 11, 33. Why? Yes, friends, those who control this world use numbers and letters as codes. The Klan themselves were puppets, controlled by the same government and corporate elite who run this country even today. They were temporary back then, just to help the elite pull off their land theft in a way that let the public blame the Klan and angry white mobs, but not the elite, not the puppet masters. And even today, when we think of so-called race riots, we think of the Klan, but never ever ask questions about the elite men who created them. In this case, we see that a wood products company financially benefited from this vast conspiracy against our ancestors. If this land theft involving almost 10,000 acres was done by this one company, what other companies around the country did the same thing? In upcoming videos, we will look at Central Park in New York, that extremely valuable land that used to be black. Also, Lake Lanier in Georgia, which was black before it became a multi-million-dollar lakefront property area. The money we lost due to numerous engineered race riots is in the hundreds of trillions of dollars, which is much larger than slave reparations, which only involve the theft of labor. Until the next video, brothers and sisters, take care.